How are you watching this video right now? Well, it's on your phone, desktop or laptop. Nowadays we take everything in our modern world for granted without even a second thought. From watching memes on the internet to listening to your favorite songs on Spotify. Well, what if everything just went dark? Almost everything we do and consume requires electricity in some way. Without it, there would be no modern agriculture, no basic services such as modern medicine, and consequently, most of the world's population would just die of starvation or diseases. Electricity has become the backbone for the modern world, so today we are setting the clock back to the year 1800 and we'll be covering what is arguably the most important invention of the entire 19th century.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
In the late 18th century, scientists were fascinated with electricity. Ben Franklin had just conducted his famous CAD experiment, drawing electricity from lightning in 1752. Leyden jars were invented in 1746. Those could store charge and produced a spark of electricity. Doctors were treating patients with electric shocks for all types of diseases. But further research on electromagnetism and any practical use of electricity would require a source of continuous current, which was not available at the time only until the year 1800, when Alessandro Volta invented the very first electric pile, the forerunner of the modern battery. Alessandro Volta was born in Como, Italy in 1745 to a wealthy noble family. He attended the Como Jesuit school in a local seminary. His teachers tried to persuade him to enter priesthood, while, on the other hand, his family wanted him to study law. Volta, even at the age of 14, knew his real interest was physics. Like many scientists of his time, he was especially fascinated by electricity. Volta dropped his formal studies and did not attend university. Nonetheless, by the age of 18, he was corresponding directly with accomplished scientists like French physicist Jean-Antoine Nollet and conducting experiments in the laboratory of a family friend. In 1769, he wrote a treatise on the forces of attraction of electric fire, in which he put forward a theory of electric phenomena. In 1774, Volta accepted a post as an instructor at the Como Grammar School and continued his experiments on electricity. In the following year, he devised a perpetual electroforces device that could transfer charge to other objects. In the next couple of years, he noticed the bubbling of methane in swamps, able to isolate the gas. Volta was later made a professor of physics at the University of Pavia in 1778. From an early childhood, his parents were alarmed because he didn't start talking until the age of 4, as is recorded in the book called Alessandro Volta by author Umberto Maltini. But this delay did not seem to harm his intellectual development, considering that beyond his native Italian, he also spoke Latin, French, German, English, Spanish, Dutch, Russian, and even ancient Greek. Volta's early work already made him a well-known scientist, but his greatest contribution to science was the voltaic pile, which he invented as part of a scientific dispute with Luigi Galvani. A creature at the time, a fish, more specifically the torpedo fish, caught the attention of many electricians and scientists. It was said that its sting could knock out a grown man. As they further studied the fish, electricians realized that the sting was very similar to a shock of a Leyden jar. And they asked themselves, could actually this sting be an electric shock? In 1780, Luigi Galvani, an Italian physician and anatomist, was experimenting with dissected frogs' legs, and he attached their spinal cords on iron brass hooks. In most of his experiments, The frog leg could be made to twitch when touched with a probe made of another metal. The frog's legs will also jump around when hanging out on a metal fence in a lightning storm. These specific observations convinced Galvani that he just found a new form of electricity, which was being generated by the frog's muscles. He called this specific phenomenon animal electricity. Volta, though initially galvanized by his work, argued that the frog's muscles were simply reacting to the electricity, not producing it. So he set out to prove Galvani wrong and sparked a controversy that divided the entire Italian scientific community. To show conclusively that the generation of an electric current did not require any animal parts, Volta put together a rather messy stack of alternating zinc and silver discs, separated by brine-soaked cloth. He built the pile, which consisted of as many as 30 discs, in an imitation of the electric organ of the torpedo fish. When a wire was connected to both ends of the voltaic pile, a steady current flowed. Volta found that different types of metal could change the amount of current produced, and that he could increase the current by adding more discs to the stack. Volta soon traveled to Paris and demonstrated his invention, which initially he described as an artificial electric organ, emphasizing that animal tissue was not needed to produce the current. The battery was a huge success. Not only did it swing the community to his side in the debate with Galvani, it was immediately recognized as a useful device. Later in the same year, William Nicholson and Anthony Carlisle used the current generated by the battery to decompose water into hydrogen and oxygen. Sir Humphrey Davy studied the same chemical effect. In the 1830s, Michael Faraday used a battery in his groundbreaking studies of electromagnetism. Other inventions made improvements on Volta's original design and soon aspiring telegraphs and doorbells. Even Napoleon was impressed by the voltaic pile and recommended many honors for Volta, including making him a count in 1810. In 1819, at the age of 74, Volta decided it was time to hang up his capacitors, voltaic piles, in electrophosphorus in his administrative work at the university. He retired to a country home closer to his hometown of Como, where he could spend more time with his wife and their 3 sons. Although the invention of the battery brought him great renown and success, Volta always seemed to have preferred a more quiet life and gave up most of research and teaching. After overcoming a stroke, Volta died at his home in Como, surrounded by, like I mentioned before, his wife and 2 sons on March 5, 1827, at the age of 82. In his honor, the International Electrical Congress approved the volt as a unit of the electromotive force. A lunar crater and an asteroid also bear his surname. His portrait has also appeared on several currency and stamps all over the world. Volta's battery produced a steady source of electric current for the first time ever. All electrical devices depended on electric current. There could be no modern technology without Volta's invention. It was an absolutely crucial invention in the development of our technological based civilization. After watching this video, you may be wondering what to do next. Don't worry, I got you covered. In the description you will find links to everything I'll mention here. The first thing I will mention here is go watch a documentary that I actually researched and I actually saw before making this video. The documentary is called Shock and Awe. The presenter is actually a professor of physics. It's a really great document. He goes in great depth about how scientists actually started using electricity, how they actually use practical ways to store it, and goes in great depth about the scientists' stories and how later more and more devices and inventions were actually discovered and created until our era right now. The second and final resource, if you want to call it that I'll recommend is a book. It is a biography about Alexander Volta. It is written by, also like I mentioned before, Umberto Voltini, and it really goes in great depth about Volta's story. So if you're interested in that, the links, like always, will be in the description.